few new pieces, but a lot of guys returning from last year, and I know expectations are always high. Can you kind of reset where the group is? How do you feel like you've gotten off to a start?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's exciting to finally be back. You know, it feels like, especially when the season ended the way that it did, that it was a long off season. But the players came in yesterday in excellent shape. And I'm excited, obviously, to integrate some of the new players and looking forward to hopefully putting ourselves in a position to be lifting a trophy. So all in all, good start and happy to be back.
Danny, when you look at the way, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, the way the season ended, I mean, you go through the course of that year and in dominating fashion in the regular season. What's the message to your team this time around, knowing that you guys can go out there and dominate, but at the end of the day, it's going to have to be throughout the entire course of the year?
Yeah, look, I think, ultimately my job is to obviously reflect on the season in its entirety, and we have to look at the last game and how it ended. At the same time, my belief is we had a group that was good enough to accomplish something special last year. In some ways we did, but obviously the way that it ended, that's going to leave a difficult taste in everybody's mouth, as it should. My messaging to the players when they left was we need to make sure that it fuels us. We need to make sure that we remember the feeling, but that we understand that we have a group that has a lot of quality and capable, as I said, of doing something special. So the messaging on day one was understanding our values, understanding our culture, and making sure that, as I said, that the offseason did fuel them. And what I wanted to see in our preseason testing and in training yesterday was it's pretty easy to be able to tell how guys took the offseason. And this group came in, passed every test we gave them, and are hungry. I think there was a lot of things that we need to be proud of objectively, but at the same time understand that we fell short. And that obviously starts and it ends with me and making sure that we as a group, we learn from it and look to push forward.
So Josh came in here earlier. What does somebody who played at U of L, what does someone like that bring to this club?
Yeah, we've followed him for quite a few years now. You obviously saw, if you met him for the first time, his size and his strength are obviously at a high level. Even yesterday, I was really impressed with his first day. At the same time, he's got to make sure that he's taking in the information and learning what it means to play for this club. However, him being obviously having been in Louisville, he understands the expectations, I think, here, and I'm excited to see him continue to progress.
Go ahead. Just to go on top of that, what do you see are some of the biggest transitions from a rookie, somebody coming from college to a professional level like that?
Yeah, I think it's the amount of time that the season is and the consistency that needs to come with that, So this is a kid that's very professional, though. I could tell just by, again, how he came in. But I think that's something that you have to learn, and it takes a little bit of time. Now, again, you also have players that like Jansen Wilson that come in and they understand expectation, their bodies hold up, and they're mentally in a good spot to be able to deal with how long a season is. And through our meetings with Josh, I would expect very similar from a mentality standpoint, which is a good thing. At the same time, he's going to have a great group around him that he can learn from, that's going to push him to be better. And I can already tell from a cultural standpoint he's going to be a great fit.
When it comes to just kind of how you approach things, did you feel like you had to make anything different? I mean, I know that, or was that final game last year, was that just one bad day because you guys had such a great regular season? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How do you try to force a different outcome?
No, it's certainly a fair question, and it's one that obviously in the off season we have to reflect on. At the end of the day, I don't think you can win the amount of games that we did last year in a regular season and lose as little amount of games as we did if you don't have that obviously consistency. It was a bad night. There's no question about it. We didn't start well. I mean, I could go through the entire game again. We didn't start well. We made poor decisions on the ball that cost us goals. We got the momentum back after halftime, and then we conceded another one, and I think the players felt it in that moment. And you can go back and forth every single day about what was the reason for that game, but it was a bad night. We didn't have many bad nights last year. In fact, we had some incredible ones. But it doesn't take away the feeling that ourselves, that the club, that our fans feel. And I think the importance in understanding what got us such a a strong regular season. What got us home field advantage was the understanding of what it takes every single day to win. And that result is going to continue to weigh on me. But my job is to push forward and make sure that I'm putting the group in the best position possible to be even better this year. And that's going to be the expectation.
You've had a couple guys from that core group of guys. Wilson has moved on. I don't know if it's official yet. Elijah's moving on. But how do you replace that, and do you feel good about the pieces that you have in place?
Yeah, I think one thing that this club that we don't get enough credit for is making sure that we're proactive in that approach. So when you look at the season that we were having last year, it was no secret that come the end of the season there were going to be suitors for some of our players. The reality is those deals have to make sense for us as a club. It is a business, but at the same time we're here to win games. With Wilson, it was a business decision that made sense for us as a club. At the same time, he did a lot for us. I think everybody that's been here knows Louisville City, knows what Wilson gave us. We ultimately want to continue to push players to be the best that they can be, leave here a better player, better person, if it makes sense for us as a club. And in his case in particular, it's why we brought in Phil when we brought him in. Phil is an incredible goal scorer. He's someone that I believe in. His history shows that. And again, in such a short amount of time for us last year, he scored a lot of goals. And so we believe in him, and obviously want Wilson to do well. Over the course of the last 5 years, I think we've sold quite a bit of players. But I think that shows the quality that this club has, and also how this is an environment where you can come compete for championships. And if it makes sense for all parties, we can put you in the best position possible to further your career.
Brian being back, I mean, his production has spoken for itself over the years. But what kind of boost does he give you if he's back at full strength? Even 35, it's tough to maintain for all year.
Yeah, I think, look, we scored a lot of goals last year. And we didn't have, probably most of our players and staff would tell you Brian was having the best preseason out of anybody in 2024 before what happened to him. And so when we look at the work that he put in all season to make sure that he gets healthy as well as the off season, when I look at the leadership that he continued to bring even though he couldn't be on the field last year, it almost feels like, again, we have a new attacker, right? Again, so you talk about Wilson leaving, but we have a player that's shown year after year that he can score goals and he can provide assists, and he's lethal in transition with his pace as well. So we're taking it one day at a time with him, making sure that I'm not overloading him to the point where his body breaks down. But I know that his body's in a great spot at the moment physically. And we're excited to have him back. And it was really good to see him out on the field yesterday with the group, running the fitness test, getting his touches in, because when you really think about it, it was, 10 months ago that we were able to see that, just about 10 months.
His leadership as a whole, is it that much more important in a year where, you're coming in every year with a championship expectation, but that fuel to be able to maintain the balance of one game at a time with the main picture in mind? How much does he help?
Yeah, it's huge. I think he last year, as I said, I want to be fair to him. He did a lot from a leadership perspective for somebody that couldn't be on the field at all. And this year, the expectation is we continue to see that leadership in that fashion, but at the same time, we're going to have a guy that's going to be able to do it on the field as well. And I think he's worked really, really hard to put himself in a position to make sure that he can provide that. And most importantly, I'm happy for him because as a man, I know he went through a lot last year, but he put himself in a position to earn another contract. And I'm certainly excited to have him back.